In today's interconnected digital landscape, understanding the fundamental concepts of risks, threats, and vulnerabilities forms the cornerstone of effective cybersecurity. As organizations increasingly rely on complex IT infrastructures to drive innovation and maintain competitive advantage, the imperative to protect these critical assets has never been more crucial. In this session, I will discuss the intrinsic relationships between these security concepts and empower you to build resilient defense strategies that stand the test of time. Organizational risk management transcends more technical considerations. It represents a strategic framework that aligns security investments with business objectives. At its core, effective risk management operates on several fundamental principles that guide decision-making and resource allocation. Risk-based decision-making forms the bedrock of sound security strategy. Organizations must move beyond the checkbox compliance to embrace a culture where every security device is evaluated through the lens of risk reduction. This approach ensures that limited resources are directed toward protecting the most critical assets and addressing the most significant exposures. Continuous assessment and monitoring recognizes that risk is not static. The threat landscape evolves daily. New vulnerabilities emerge regularly, and organizational changes introduce fresh exposures. Successful risk management programs establish ongoing processes to identify, evaluate, and respond to changing risk profiles, thus creating a dynamic defense posture that adapts to emerging challenges. Stakeholder engagement and communication ensures that risk management extends beyond the IT department. Effective programs foster collaboration between technical teams, business units, executive leadership, and external partners. This holistic approach creates shared accountability and ensures that security considerations are woven into the fabric of organizational culture. Quantitative and qualitative analysis provides the analytical foundation for informed decision-making. Organizations must develop capabilities to measure risk in both numerical terms, such as potential financial impact and probability of occurrence, and qualitative dimensions that consider reputational damage, regulatory consequences, and operational disruption. Integration with business processes ensures that risk management becomes an enabler rather than impediment to business objectives. The most successful programs seamlessly integrate security considerations into project planning, vendor management, change control, and strategic planning processes. The relationship between risks, threats, and vulnerabilities represents one of cybersecurity's most fundamental concepts, yet these terms are often misunderstood or used interchangeably. Mastering these distinctions empowers security professionals to communicate effectively, assess situations accurately, and implement appropriate countermeasures. Now let's talk about vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities represent the foundational weakness. It is a gap in armor that could potentially be exploited. These weaknesses exist within systems, it exists within processes or human behaviors, and it creates opportunities for compromise. Vulnerabilities can manifest as unpatched software, as a misconfigured systems, inadequate access controls. It could even be in insufficient training or flawed architectural designs. Importantly, vulnerabilities exist independently of any external actor's intent to exploit them. For example, a server running outdated software contains vulnerability, regardless of whether any attacker is aware of it or interested in exploiting it. Threats introduce the element of intent and capability. A threat represents a potential danger that could exploit existing vulnerabilities to cause harm. Threats can be natural disasters, it could be human actors with malicious intent, it could be system failures or accidental actions. The key characteristic of threats is their potential to act upon vulnerabilities. For example, a sophisticated cybercriminal group represents a threat, but only becomes relevant to your organization when they have both the capability and motivation to exploit your specific vulnerabilities. Risks emerge from the intersection of threats and vulnerabilities. It represents the potential for an actual harm to occur. Risk quantifies the likelihood that a specific threat will successfully exploit a particular vulnerability and the magnitude of impact that will result. So the relationship is often expressed as risk equals to threat times vulnerability times impact. Understanding this formula empowers organizations to reduce risk through multiple approaches, eliminating vulnerabilities, mitigating threats, or reducing potential impact. Consider a practical example like this. For example, an organization maintains a web server with an unpatched security flaw. That is a vulnerability. If cyber criminals actively scan the internet for systems with that specific type of weakness, that becomes a threat. Then the risk emerges from the probability that the criminals will discover and successfully exploit the vulnerability, potentially resulting in data theft, service disruption, or financial loss. And that will be the impact. Modern IT infrastructures face an extensive array of risks that span technical, operational, and strategic dimensions. Understanding these common risk categories enables organizations to develop comprehensive protection strategies and allocate resources effectively. Cybersecurity risks represent the most visible category. It encompasses various forms of malicious activity targeting organizational assets. Data breaches expose sensitive information, potentially resulting in regulatory fines, customer loss, and reputational damage. Ransomware attacks encrypt critical systems, demanding payment while disrupting operations. Advanced persistent threats establish long-term presence within a network and then gradually exfiltrating valuable intellectual property. Denial of service attacks will overwhelm systems, rendering services unavailable to legitimate users. Operational risks arise from the complexity of managing sophisticated IT environments. System failures can cascade across interconnected platforms, creating widespread service disruptions. Human error remains a significant factor. Think about misconfigurations, accidental deletions, poor decision-making contributing to security incidents. Change management failures introduce instability when modifications are implemented without proper testing or coordination. Capacity planning shortfalls can result in performance degradation or service outages during peak demand periods. Compliance and regulatory risks have gained prominence as governments and industry bodies establish increasingly stringent requirements. Organizations must navigate complex regulatory frameworks such as the GDPR, the HIPAA, the PCI DSS, and SOX. Each of these imposes specific security controls and reporting obligations. Non-compliance can result in significant financial penalties, operational restrictions, and reputational harm that exceeds far beyond immediate regulatory consequences. Vendor and supply chain risks reflect the interconnected nature of modern business relationships. Third-party vendors may introduce vulnerabilities through inadequate security practices or compromised systems. Software supply chain attacks target development and distribution processes, embedding malicious code into legitimate applications. Cloud service provider outages or security incidents can impact multiple organizations simultaneously. So managing these distributed risks requires sophisticated vendor assessment and ongoing monitoring capabilities. Emerging technology risks accompany innovation and digital transformation initiatives. Internet of Things devices often lack robust security controls, thereby expanding attack surfaces. Artificial intelligence and machine learning systems may exhibit unexpected behaviors or biases. Remote work technologies create new attack vectors and complicate traditional perimeter-based security models. Therefore, organizations must balance innovation opportunities with prudent risk management. In this session, I'll discuss the physical security as a tangible foundation of information protection. While cybersecurity often dominates security discussions, physical security controls provide the essential foundation upon which digital protections are built. Effective physical security creates multiple layers of protection that complement and enhance technical controls, ensuring comprehensive asset protection. Perimeter security establishes the first line of defense through various access control mechanisms. Fencing, barriers, and natural obstacles define organizational boundaries and channel visitor flow through controlled entry points. The security gates, the turnstiles, and vehicle access controls manages the movement of people and assets through and across perimeters. Lighting systems will eliminate hiding places and enable effective surveillance, while landscaping design removes concealment opportunities and maintains clear sight lines. Access control systems manage human movement within facilities through sophisticated authentication and authorization mechanisms. Card readers, biometric scanners, and PIN-based systems verify individual identity before granting access to sensitive areas. Man-trap configurations prevent unauthorized piggyback access by requiring sequential authentication steps. Visitor management systems will track external personnel, ensuring that they remain in authorized areas under appropriate supervision. Environmental controls protect sensitive equipment from both intentional and accidental damage. The fire suppression systems utilize specialized agents that extinguish flames without damaging electronic equipment. The HVAC systems maintain optimal temperature and humidity levels, preventing equipment failure due to environmental stress. Power protection systems, including uninterruptible power supplies and backup generators, would ensure continued operation during utility outages. Water detection systems provide early warning leaks that could damage critical infrastructure. Surveillance and monitoring creates persistent awareness of facility activity through multiple sensor types. Closed-circuit television systems will provide visual monitoring of key areas, with modern systems offering intelligent analytical capabilities. Motion detectors identify unauthorized movements in restricted zones. Sound monitoring systems detect breaking glass, forced entry, or other suspicious noises. Integration platforms correlate inputs from multiple sensor types, providing comprehensive situational awareness to security personnel. Secure storage and disposal will protect sensitive materials throughout their life cycle. Safes, vault systems, and the rest provide high security storage for critical documents, for backup media, and cryptographic materials. Secure workstations and lockable cabinets protect information processing areas. Document destruction services ensure that sensitive materials are completely eliminated when no longer needed. Asset tracking systems maintain accountability for valuable equipment and sensitive materials. Effective cybersecurity requires understanding not just the technical aspect of attacks, but also the human actors who execute them. Each category of perpetrator brings distinct capabilities, motivations, and attack patterns that influence appropriate defensive strategies. Cybercriminals represent perhaps the most persistent and evolving threat category. These profit-motivated actors have transformed cybercrime into a sophisticated economy with specialized roles and service offerings. Ransomware operators focus on encrypting valuable data and demanding payment for recovery keys. Financial fraudsters target banking systems, the payment processors, and e-commerce platforms to steal money or valuable financial information. Identity thieves harvest personal information for resale or direct monetization. So the industrialization of cybercrime has created markets where specialized groups develop attack tools, others execute attacks, and still others handle monetization, creating a robust criminal ecosystem. Nation-state actors are another group. They conduct cyber espionage and warfare activities in support of national interests. These highly sophisticated groups possess substantial resources, advanced technical capabilities, and long-term strategic objectives. Economic espionage operations target intellectual property. They target trade secrets and competitive intelligence. Political espionage gathers information about foreign government activities, policies, decision-making processes. Critical infrastructure targeting seeks to establish persistent access to systems that could be disrupted during conflicts. The attribution challenges associated with nation and state activities often complicate response efforts. Insider threats are another aspect. They exploit their legitimate access and knowledge to cause harm from within organizations. Malicious insiders may be motivated by financial gain, by revenge, by ideology, or coercion by external parties. These individuals often possess detailed knowledge of organizational systems, security controls, and valuable assets. Negligent insiders cause harm through careless actions, policy violations, or susceptibility to social engineering attacks. The challenge of insider threats lie in distinguishing malicious activity from legitimate business operations while maintaining a trusting work environment. Hacktivists pursue political or social agendas through cyber attacks and is designed to advance their causes. They use website defacements to communicate political messages to broad audiences, distributed denial of service attacks to disrupt services, to protest organizational policies or actions. It could also be data theft and public disclosure operations, which they seek to expose perceived wrongdoing or embarrass target organizations. While often less technically sophisticated than nation-state actors, hacktivist groups can generate significant attention and operational impact. Script kiddies and opportunistic actors represent less sophisticated but potentially numerous threats. These are individuals that often lack advanced technical skills, but they utilize readily available attack tools and techniques. Their attacks may appear random, but can still cause significant damage, particularly when they target organizations with weak security controls. So understanding these actors will help organizations to implement appropriate baseline protections that address common patterns. The modern IT threat landscape encompasses a vast array of attack vectors that target different infrastructure components through various methodologies. Understanding how threats relate to specific infrastructure elements enable organizations to develop targeted defenses and prioritize security investments effectively. Network-based threats will target the communication pathways that connect organizational systems. Distributed denial of service attacks would overwhelm network capacity, which will render services unavailable to legitimate users. Man-in-the-middle attacks will intercept communications between systems, potentially capturing sensitive data or injecting malicious content. Network scanning and reconnaissance activities map organizational infrastructure, thereby identifying potential attack targets. Protocol-based attacks exploit weaknesses in communication standards. It does this by bypassing security controls through unexpected packet structures or behaviors. Endpoint threat focuses on individual devices that connect to organizational networks. Think about malware infections, how they introduce malicious software that can steal data, establish persistent access, or provide platforms for further attacks. Zero-day exploits target previously unknown vulnerabilities in operating system or applications before patching becomes available. Social engineering attacks manipulate users into executing malicious actions or revealing sensitive information. Device loss or theft can expose organizational data that are stored on mobile devices or laptops. Application-level threats will exploit weaknesses in software systems and development practices. SQL injection attacks will manipulate database queries to extract or modify sensitive information. Cross-site scripting attacks will inject malicious code into web applications, potentially compromising user sessions. Buffer overload exploits will target memory management vulnerabilities to execute arbitrary code. API attacks will exploit poorly secured application programming interfaces to access unauthorized functionality or data. Cloud and virtualization threats emerges from unique characteristics of modern computing architectures. The multi-tenancy aspect of the cloud will reveal vulnerabilities that may allow unauthorized access to other organizations' data within a shared cloud environment. Container escape attacks break out of isolated application environments to access underlying systems. Misconfigured cloud storage systems expose sensitive data to unauthorized access. Hypervisor attacks target virtualization platforms, potentially compromising multiple virtual machines simultaneously. Supply chain threats target the development and distribution processes that deliver technology solutions. You can see malicious code injection attacks. They embed harmful functionality into legitimate software during distribution or development. Hardware tampering introduces malicious components into devices before they reach end users. Update mechanism compromises allow attackers to distribute malicious software through legitimate update channels. Vendor compromise attacks target managed service providers to gain access to multiple vendor environments. Now, let me discuss how vulnerabilities enable infrastructure compromise. Understanding how vulnerabilities are systematically exploited provides crucial insights for developing effective defensive strategies. The exploitation process typically follows predictable patterns that security professionals can disrupt through appropriate controls and monitoring capabilities. At the discovery and reconnaissance phase, it is the phase where attackers identify and access potential targets. Automated scanning tools will be used to probe networks for open ports, for running services, and known vulnerabilities. Public information gathering leverages social media, company websites, and technical documentation to understand organizational structure and technology usage. Social engineering reconnaissance gathers information about employees, their processes, and security controls through direct human interaction. This phase is often characterized by low-level persistent activities that may not trigger security alerts, but it provides valuable intelligence for subsequent attack phases. The initial access and foothold establishment will convert discovered vulnerabilities into actual system compromise. Phishing campaigns deliver malicious attachments or links that exploit client-side vulnerability. Remote code execution exploits target network accessible services with known weaknesses. Credential-based attacks leverage stolen or guess default passwords. They use it to gain legitimate system access. Once initial access is achieved, attackers will focus on maintaining persistent presence through backdoors, through scheduled tasks, or legitimate administrative tools used inappropriately. Privilege escalation and lateral movement expand attacker capabilities and access scope. Local privilege escalation exploits allow attackers to gain administrative rights on initially compromised systems. Then they will do the credential harvesting to extract stored passwords, authentication tokens, or cryptographic keys from compromised systems. They use network traversal activities map using the internal infrastructure to identify additional targets. Trust relationship exploitation leverages existing system connections to access previously unreachable resources. Data collection and exfiltration achieve attacker objectives while avoiding detection. Sensitive data identification locates high-value information through automated scanning or manual exploration. Data staging processes collect identified information in centralized locations for efficient exfiltration. It will convert communication channels through established methods for removing data without triggering network monitoring systems. Anti-forensic activities attempt to eliminate evidence of compromise and maintain long-term access. Impact and persistence focuses on achieving lasting effects while maintaining access for future operations. System modification activities may alter configurations, they may install additional malicious software, or they could create new user accounts. Data destruction or encryption may occur to support ransomware operations or create maximum operational disruption. A command and control infrastructure enables ongoing attacker access and coordination. Advanced persistent threats emphasize maintaining long-term process for continued intelligence gathering or future activation. So how do you build resilient defenses? You do that by transforming understanding into action. The journey from understanding risks, threats, and vulnerabilities to implementing effective security controls requires a systematic approach that addresses both technical and organizational dimensions. Success depends on creating layered defenses that assume individual controls may fail while building organizational capabilities to adapt to evolving threats. Defense in-depth strategies implement multiple overlapping security controls that provide redundant protection mechanisms, network segmentation to limit attack propagation by isolating critical systems and restricting lateral movement opportunities. Endpoint detection and response systems will monitor device behavior for signs of compromise. Access control systems will ensure that users and systems possess only the minimum privileges necessary for legitimate functions. Security awareness training helps employees recognize and respond appropriately to social engineering attacks. Continuous improvement processes ensures that security programs evolve with changing threat landscapes and organizational needs. Vulnerability management programs systematically identify, prioritize, and remediate security weaknesses across IT infrastructure. Also, the incident response capabilities in an organization will enable rapid detection, the containment, and recovery from security events. Threat intelligence programs can be used to provide insights into emerging attack techniques and threat actor activities. Regular security assessments validate control effectiveness and identify improvement opportunities. Integration and automation maximize security program efficiency while reducing human error and response times. Security information and event management platforms will correlate data from multiple sources to identify potential security incidents. Automated response capabilities can contain threats and initiate recovery processes without human intervention. Configuration management systems can ensure consistent security settings across large-scale infrastructure deployments. Orchestration platforms coordinate complex security processes such as multiple tools and teams. The path forward requires embracing security as an enabler of business executives rather than a constraint on operations. Organizations that successfully navigate this transformation can create competitive advantages through increased customer trust, reduced operational risk, and enhanced ability to embrace new technologies safely. The investment in comprehensive risk management, threat awareness, and vulnerability mitigation creates foundations for sustainable success in an increasingly digital world. your role in this security ecosystem, whether as a cybersecurity professional, if you're an IT administrator, an auditor, or a student, it contributes to the effective collective defense of our interconnected society. The concepts I've discussed here will provide a foundation for making informed decisions, for implementing effective controls, and building resilient organizations that can thrive despite evolving threats. The future belongs to those who understand that security is not a destination, but a continuous journey of learning and adaptation and improvement. I'll see you in the next session.